Hello, dear friends of the podcast I have chosen, Asis Brach. We continue with the promised next episode with Professor Filipov, an astrologer that revealed a lot of knowledge related to the celestial omens. And actually, now we are going on with the conversation that started the previous week. And let me once again remind some facts about him, because maybe you have missed episode 1 with him. So, Filipov is a graduate physicist, philosopher, esotericist, and astrology professor at the European Astrology University, founded by 6 centuries old astrological traditions. We're going to talk about those traditions next time. In April, there will be a lot of interesting information that we will share with you. But before that, let me share some more facts. Professor Filipov is well known for the fact that he, in public, in the national broadcasting media, not only has proved the scientific meaning of astrology by means of precise astroprognosis of global events, such as, for example, the earthquakes in Fukushima, in Pernik, in Italy, the huge earthquake in Turkey, the war in Ukraine, Trump's success in the 2024 presidential election, the death of the Queen of the UK in 2022, and many other events publicly predicted by him, which are so many that the list is too long. And right now I'm very excited because in the previous episode the colors were not so pink and sunny, but despite that we received very interesting information, because if we know, then we are able to change things, because we are free people and so we have free will, or at least those who are willing to think and be free. Therefore, I challenge you to watch episode 1 with Professor Filipov, the previous episode, but today we are going to talk about the omen related to Venus. The 22nd of March is the beginning of the spiritual new year. This date is not random. Philip is going to tell us something more about it. Why is this rise of Venus so important? When did it happen for the last time? What omen is this for? And how much light and hope is there for our world, having in mind Venus and its rising? Philip, please be welcome to speak. Hello again to our audience. I'm very glad that I'm again here in the channel I have chosen, Asis Brach. What I would like to share and tell this time is that there are very important events ahead of us during the second part of March. First of all, on the 20th of March, we pass through the spring equinox, which since thousands of years has been the true New Year's Day of humankind. And until now, there are nations who celebrate their New Year on the 20th of March. It is usually celebrated in the course of at least 3 days. And for this reason, people in Bulgaria have the habit to point as the beginning of the spiritual year the date of the 22nd of March. But this year, it happens on the 20th of March. If we want to be precise astrologically, so we can celebrate 3 days. There is no problem. Just as in the fairy tales, right? Exactly. So they ate, drank, and celebrated 3 days. Exactly. So we are first going to analyze this same horoscope again, but we will tell something more about this. But the most important is that on the background of this horoscope, there happens the divine phase of Venus, which was known to humankind still maybe 3 or 4,000 years ago, when in Mesopotamia, when the Sumeric, the Babylonian, and the Akkadian and the Persian civilizations were developed, and of course the so-called Chaldeans, which are the great astrologers of ancient times, exactly they noticed something exceptionally important, that in a certain moment Venus develops as an evening star. In its normal time cycle, after finishing its path as an evening star, it goes down, it sets it in its invisible phase, interpreted by the ancients as the descending of Ishtar and of Aphrodite, named also Venus, into the underworld, which is not a harmonious event at all. Horrible things happen there with Venus, and this is great suffering for humans. But this is in the ordinary cycle of Venus. And after that, Venus rises again as a morning star, and then it enters its phase of wisdom and ideas, and then it rules strategy and military science. And therefore, in antiquity, our ancestors quoted, for example, Pallas Athena. In our ancient Thracian language, Athena means a wet nurse. But if you go and ask our friends to the south what Athena means, they don't know that even nowadays. So that was a small interesting detail. But in the European Astrological University, we have clarified this with our colleagues from Greece, and we come to a common consensus, which is extremely important for the spiritual development. Oh, it sounds unbelievable. Yes, but each intelligent Greek knows those facts. For example, the name Zeus in Greek has no meaning. However, it has a meaning in Bulgarian, and I can say it. In Bulgarian and Thracian language, we are successors of the Thracian, and we have lived in our lands for at least 10,000 years. And all those false theories of some people who have come riding little horses from Asia are absolute manipulation and a lie, because this precise science called genetics has revealed that. And the truth is that we are here since thousands of years. So in our language we have the sound zh. We say živ, život. It means alive, life. However, our friends, the Greeks from the south, they cannot pronounce this sound, and they substitute it with the sound z. So the word živ becomes the word ziv, which is in the masculine form. So when we Bulgarians say God of the living, which is in Bulgarian Boga na živite, interpreted into Greek sounds God of the zivite, Zeus. So here is how a word survives in the Greek language, but the Greeks do not know its meaning. But we Bulgarians understand it. Another such word is Ares, Ares, God Ares. In Bulgarian, this word sounds like Yarost, which in English is the warrior's fury in battle. So the god of the warrior's fury is Ares. Yes, he is not the most kind or mild of the gods. Yes, but until today, even some people do not know what it means. However, we Bulgarians know it. So when all of those processes happen in the sky, and Venus in its normal cycle enters from being an evening star and goes down the horizon and then appears again as a morning star, this is the normal cycle. However, during special times, usually once in the course of 8 years or even 50 years, sometimes Venus has a special cycle, appearing as an evening star, and then she overcomes darkness and does not descend into the underworld at all. She conquers darkness and death, and there are 3 days in which you can see her as an evening star to the west and as a morning star to the east. It means that the sun goes down, you see Venus shining very close to the sunset, several hours pass, you go to meet the sunrise, but you watch 1 or 2 hours earlier before the sunrise, and you see again Venus appearing to the east as a morning star. And after that you see the sun rising. The next day you go, this is the same day you see her as a morning star. The same evening you see it as an evening star. And in this way, 2 or 3 days, you will see Venus both as an evening star and as a morning star. So the ancients paid special attention to this, and it symbolizes that the planet of love overcomes darkness and death, meaning that love resurrects the dead and love overcomes all dark forces. And through the luminous power of the planet of love and its great light, all negative processes in life are transformed, and people are able in such moments, especially if they observe Venus, to perceive and accept this divine energy given to us from the universe and to apply it in their own lives. The last one who explored this was Pythagoras. Pay attention to this Pythagoras. It was almost 2,500 years ago. He drew the attention of his disciples to this, and he told them about this. And in modern philosophy and history of science, it is said that Western science begins from that moment when Pythagoras taught this knowledge that Venus to the west is Aphrodite and also Pallas Athena to the east are one and the same planet. And this is the planet Venus. So actually from that very moment when Pythagoras taught this to his people, and probably several centuries also after that, it was known by the great astrologers. But we have no records about this. And no later than now, in 2017, the Bulgarian astrological tradition observes this phase of Venus. Videos were recorded, and the idea was presented at European conferences on astrology. So now, 8 years later, this will happen again in 2025, in the time period starting from 17th, 18th, 19th of March. There will be a process of preparation. You will see mainly Venus to the west. Venus will gradually come closer and closer to the sun, and around the 20th until the 23rd of March, you will have the chance to see Venus both as an evening star and as a morning star, and after that, Venus will be stabilized only as a morning star. And let me show this to you not only in words, why this happens. So, just a moment. So, besides that, we have to observe Venus, because as we talked in the previous conversation, everything is alive, the cosmos is alive, and these are energies and connections more ancient than our memory at all levels. We have to also be very vigilant, very awake in this moment, because it will influence all of us on this planet Earth individually and collectively. As I explained to you, each astrological event has its lower manifestation, its normal manifestation, and its higher spiritual or divine manifestation. And we will try to give several viewpoints to this exclusively special phase of Venus. In order for us to understand this, we see how Venus is positioned extremely high above the Sun. If we move all of this with a step of one day, we will see that on the 22nd and the night towards the 23rd, Venus is at about 8 degrees above the Sun, to the north above the ecliptic. And this gives the chance for the following situation. We see how the Sun goes towards its setting, and literally just after the sunset, here is the moment, here is the sunset. The Sun has already gone down and Venus still can be seen over the horizon. So pay attention. This is Venus as an evening star. So when we get to this running, we see below the horizon how Venus is preparing for its rising. It passes through low culmination in this very moment. And then it is preparing to rise, and pay attention that it will rise before the Sun. So you see how Venus has risen before the Sun. So in this way, we will see Venus as an evening star, and on the next day, before the sunrise, we will see her also as a morning star. And this will repeat in the course of 2 or 3 days, especially in the time period between the 21st and the 24th of March. Thus, we have a great divine omen showing that love and its divine aura overcomes all dark forces. And the ordinary astrologers who do not observe the sky cannot see this in any way. And for this reason, they see the big omens during 2025 and they interpret those omens almost entirely negatively. But actually, this year we have a great divine sign, which very rarely, maybe once in thousands of years, happens at the spring equinox. When this divine sign happens at the spring equinox, this is a landmark and world-changing. Do you have any information when was the last time this happened? This is measured by thousands of years. For example, 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, the cycle of this motion can be compared to the precession cycle, which is about 2,160 years for one epoch, one age. In the case of Venus, it's pentagram, because Venus forms a pentagram in the sky, and therefore the master uses this sacred symbol as a symbol of the divine principles of Christ. This pentagram rotates just as the precession, and the cycle of rotation of this pentagram spans over thousands of years. So when it happens at the spring equinox exactly, it means that it's a tremendous omen, meaning that we are entering a period of time in which God's love will be many times more active than usual. And regarding the entire humankind, we are entering a special period in which God's love and God's activity on the spiritual plane will be many times more powerful. Why does this happen? This is because darkness becomes more active. So the forces of light have to overcome this darkness and to give a divine impulse to the humankind, so that the reasonable and spiritual people can also overcome this darkness. And in this context, I would like to show the horoscope of the spring equinox and to interpret it, to see where the darkness is there, so that we can understand how through the impulse of God's love and this great omen, which is a landmark and happens exclusively, rarely, once in thousands of of years and to see how to utilize it so that we can get over the negative influences. So now I will share the screen again. This time we can see the horoscope of the spring equinox on the 20th of March around 11 o'clock and 1 minute our time in Bulgaria. The spring equinox happens when the sun enters the 0 degree of the tropical sign Aries. So right away we can see that at the first day of spring we have here a big concentration of planets around the sun. Venus, Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, North Lunar Node. This is really radically powerful energy. And happily the positive aspects dominate here. We have almost entirely red aspects showing that the influencing processes are almost entirely positive. This negative aspect that is seen here is locally positioned towards the ascendant and is not so essential, so we can say that the positive aspects at the first day of spring dominate. Mercury is retrograde at this moment, showing that this is a year during which we have to make more effort at the mental and economic level, and that is not a problem. Saturn is invisible. It will rise in its heliacal cycle, as far as I can remember, towards the end of April and beginning of May. Neptune, however, is in an almost precise conjunction with the Sun at the first day of spring, and Neptune is in a conjunction with the karmic point, or the point ruling the causal processes. This is the North Lunar Node, and all of this makes a super emphasis on the whole situation. And on top of that, Venus is not invisible, not in the underworld, not hanging on the hook as it is described in the Sumerian texts, that when it becomes invisible, she is murdered and hung at some hook. No, death is overcome, and in this case the planet of love overcomes all those negative influences and shines brightly in the sky, both at the east and at the west. And this is a very special expression of the cosmos, because both to the east and to the west, God's love will rule and guide. Just listen to this sentence: both to the east and to the west, God's love will rule and guide. Amen. God grant, naturally. And in this case, the most important is that we understand this concentration of several planets, what it means. See how around the sun we have Neptune, the North Lunar Node, and Venus at one and the same place, and around them Saturn and Mercury. What does it mean? It means that if we take Neptune in its highest octave or degree, this is the planet of psychology, the planet ruling higher arts, the art of making films, theater, the planet of the highest forms of love, not only of the higher romance, but also of the spiritual forms of love, of the meditative abilities, of prayer, of the connection with God. This is the planet connecting us with the hierarchy of the seraphs, or also named the seraphim, the great gods of love, abiding in God's aura and ruling over the processes of cosmic love in the entire galaxy. And in this case, this planet helps us so much so that we can perceive those cosmic, powerful energies of love coming from all over the galaxy. And pay attention that here also the planet of love, Venus, is giving this divine impulse that God's love rules over everything in life. And thus we have a hyper emphasis showing that the highest energies of love and of the entire cosmos are focused onto the planet Earth and will be directed in this period of time in 2025 at the springtime until the spring of 2026. And these sublime energies overcome darkness and death and all limitations and negative forces that try to counteract through all sorts of negative influences. So what are these negative influences that could counteract? Saturn is present here, showing not only those sublime aspects, but also some medical institutions and attempts for fraud and covered shady affairs and jobbery. And Mercury retrograde shows the same. So if the negative forces try to limit the humankind through some lies and frauds in the sphere sphere of medicine by manipulating again some information accessible to the public. This is the sentence that is formed by the negative interpretation of Neptune and Mercury, whereas Venus, that this will not happen this time. People are awake enough. God's love rules over the processes. We have the emphasis of stability that is going to rule during a whole year ahead of us. And this is an exceptionally favorable interpretation of those processes. So if we can say that the negative forces have tried to intervene, then they will be cut off and liquidated fundamentally at a great planetary scale this time. So most probably we will see those who are guilty for the previous medical crisis. Maybe we'll see them in prison or in the court. We'll see the truth about all this. We'll see the tendencies trying to impose on people through some poisonous substances scattered all over by palm oil, by ferrous cyanide in the salt, and whatever else could you think about that is being added in the food. All that will become publicly known. And what about the putting of insects into food? That is already allowed in the flour and so on, according to the standards of the zone we live in. Well, all those processes will be liquidated fundamentally, because what happened in the USA will flood also the European Union as a great wave. And from there, people who are on high positions in the European Parliament will already be normal beings and not under the influence of some lobbyist interests of certain people in the USA. I intentionally do not mention any names. So this will literally change Europe, and such insanity will not be allowed. As, for example, feeding children with insects. This is intolerable for the European civilization, and also impossible, because this is a danger for the health. So if we go on thinking, we see the first day of spring of an exceptional range, and then the divine phase of Venus that I already explained and showed what it is and how it influences people. However, we have something more happening on the 29th of March, and that is the solar eclipse that will be partly visible from many places all over the earth, and from Europe as a partial solar eclipse, and it literally passes nearby Bulgaria without touching it. We will visualize this. So Bulgaria is again in a good position, just as in the previous episode. Yes, that is the horoscope of the very solar eclipse on the 29th of March. You can see how this happens as an animation in the sky projected upon the surface of the earth. The yellow part that you see, the dark yellow, is the shadow, and the light yellow is the semi-shade, named the penumbra. So where you can see the solar eclipse partially, you can see how this goes around and nearby Bulgaria, passing through Serbia, Romania, but not Bulgaria, which is a very important positive omen for our nation. So pay attention that in the horoscope of the 29th of March, on this new moon, which is also a solar eclipse, there is again a concentration of planets on one and the same place. Saturn, North Lunar Node, Mercury, Venus, Neptune, in a precise conjunction on the border, literally where the tropical zodiac begins. We can say this is one of the most important planetary points showing the energy processes of the entire planet. So towards the end of March and the entire April, we will see some great global events provoked by this solar eclipse, which will most probably in the direction we just commented, because they are given as a context during the spring equinox and are unfolded during the solar eclipse. And since the solar eclipse is the symbol of darkness and of the attack of the dark forces, most probably at that time we will see certain influences in the direction of limiting the humankind in a new way due to the influence of this super powerful five-fold quote conjunction, and if we count also the star Shiat, it becomes a conjunction of 6 points, and we can say that here there will be attempt of certain manipulations and tendencies towards limiting people, again in the medical sphere or at the level of processes concerning the social development. But again, I'm saying that in this event, Venus and Neptune as impulses of the sublime great energy of the divine presence overcome all those influences, and they will be blocked in time. And when making an analysis of the processes concerning Bulgaria, here, unfortunately, the solar eclipse in the end of March shows a more serious seismic risk for earthquakes because one of the dangerous lines passes exactly through Bulgaria. Here, most probably, this will not be about an earthquake risk exactly, but rather about greater political changes and transformations, most probably that, but still, in Bulgaria, there will be an orange code for earthquake risk. As you see, the other lines do not spare all the dangerous processes regarding entire Europe. Here we have the presence of very particular focused energies. This is the other perspective to the same moment, again around the moment of the solar eclipse. And now we can take a look at what happens in America. You can see what a great concentration of planet energies in Central America. And here in the Western states, we also have a serious concentration of processes that we have to follow, seeing what exactly will happen there. And most probably there will be catastrophic or earthquake events. And here is still another point of view towards the same process, another coordinate system. And finally, let's see what happens in Asia. We can see here that in Indonesia, in its northwestern part, we can see a great concentration of serious influences, and Japan is affected as well. And still another viewpoint showing that here in India and also Kathmandu, also there is a catastrophic risk of a high range. But all these things can be summarized in the following words. Although the solar eclipse marks the entire lunar cycle beginning from the 29th of March and ending towards the end of April, we will have a month which is very active and in which, besides the attack of the darkness, the forces of light will dominate and will overcome all dangers. And the most important is that we actually can, through the instruments of personal astrology, check the different processes in our personal horoscope, not only the zodiacal sign. The personal horoscope is this entire circle with all those points in it, all the 12 planets in the sky, together with the karmic points. And when all of this is analyzed regarding a personal horoscope, we have special algorithms focusing the prognostic information within around 10 graphics. For example, the graphics of health, the graphics of love, of profession, of spiritual energy, of creative impulses, of sexual energy, of finances, of emotional processes, of mental processes, of dynamics in business, of partnerships, including the graphics of risk, which is the third counted from down upwards. And when we make all those graphics, both for March and for April, we'll be able to make a prognosis about when the dangerous minimums are in a certain personal horoscope. So if we, for example, enter a horoscope, I will give here an example and will show how personal astrology, the higher contemporary astrology, and I have a request towards the audience of this channel to stop using any kind of information given by the media, the TV, the radio, by the websites, which are of an ordinary range, in which they talk about what is going to happen with a certain zodiacal sign within a day or a week or several months ahead. All the astrological information given by the TV or various media or broadcasting in the websites, in the social nets, and so on, which interprets that, for example, the zodiacal sign of Gemini is going to have this and that happening in their life, or that this and that will happen to the zodiacal sign of Cancer, or this and that to Pisces, but all the Aries will be very happy. All those types and descriptions are totally inadequate, unprofessional, and should not be used at all. Why? Because they are not based on interpretation of true horoscopes. Most often, they are based on the so-called analyzing only by one factor, where is the sun of the person, and on this position, the planets in space are positioned, and the aspects towards this sun are interpreted. This is only one point of the entire horoscope of the person, which is the sun of this person, which is absolutely unprofessional and incorrect. And for this reason, the serious science attacks astrology exactly for that reason, due to such incorrect and false prognosis that are actually totally inadequate. Moreover, when people want to make analysis of matters, the most correct way is that they should not look only at the sun, but to look at their entire horoscope. When they see all of their horoscope, it should be analyzed in its fullness, and only then can we speak of a personal and active astrological prognosis made individually for the particular person. And then the effectiveness of those prognoses becomes very serious, adequate, and it can be used in a very reasonable way for the risk management in life or for the optimum use of all the boons in life given to us by the cosmos. And the most essential is that people have to learn to use the personal astrology. It means using such resources from astrologers who are able to create the conditions for 10,000 people, 100,000 people simultaneously to check their personal and complete horoscopes and to make an assessment of 10 topics in their lives, how they develop during a certain period of time. This is totally possible in the current conditions, and it is not necessary to make any equilibristic here, but the essential is that I explain what global processes are taking place and to create the conditions for everyone to check what happens in their personal complete horoscope. This is the true contemporary and professional activity in the sphere of astrology, and that is what we explain and teach in the European Astrology University. More about this university you will hear in the previous episode when certain things are said. Let us make a demonstration, and let me ask you again, what does it cost? Well, to build your chart in 2 dimensions as you see it here, or via 3 dimensions, by clicking here on this icon, which is like a globe, is entirely free of charge. By pointing here every one of those items, by clicking on all of those images, for example, if you click on this green line, you receive additional information, or on the other lines, you receive additional explanations, which practically no one will give to you for free, except for us, we give it for free. By pointing at each planet, you also get additional information. Of course, this can happen on a laptop, not on your phone. So how does the 3-dimensional horoscope look like? So I click here on this blue icon above the 2-dimensional chart, and then we must wait for the charging of the celestial sphere in the moment of birth of a certain person. This celestial sphere can be constructed in several different ways. In the moment this is automatically positioned for the classic celestial sphere, we can see how it looks as a celestial sphere, but we can also enter it and also to interpret each one of the positions of the different planets, which are shown with pictures of the planets for maximum easiness. And in the various images of the stars and constellations, we can see which planets are positioned in them. We can see where the true ascendant of the person is, the 3-dimensional ascendant, which is not only a point, but this is a whole line. You can see what constellations arise at the moment of birth of this person. For example, he has the rising constellation of Pegasus together with Andromeda. They have a huge influence on the life of this person, but we know nothing about those influences, while ordinary astrology knows nothing about those influences. However, true astrology knows a lot of things. For example, people who are born with Pegasus on their ascendant, so this constellation was rising at the moment of their birth, such people have an exceptionally rich imagination. They can become poets. They can embrace the whole planet with their thought and also with their journeys. The thing is that sometimes Andromeda also rises in parallel with this, but when Andromeda is rising, this is one of the constellations showing that those people who were born with Andromeda rising have an extremely important task to overcome materialism, to overcome the chains of matter, to overcome the limitations that are imposed on the soul by a psychological way in life by the family. And just as Andromeda was saved by Perseus, the same way the human soul must be saved by the impulses of the divine spirit in us. So we see a person having such a task in their life, and only the higher three-dimensional astrology is able to show and explain all of that. All constellations have enormous influence, and we can see them from the viewpoint not only of the classical astrology, but also of the Egyptian astrology. Those images and pictures are taken from the zodiac in Dendera, the temple of astrology on the earth. We can see how the sacred scarab sets and goes down in the moment of birth of this person. What does that mean? That the impulses of immortality and the aspiration of the human soul towards immortality will inspire the partnerships of this person. You cannot see this by ordinary astrology in any way. And we have also visualized Sumerian astrology. Actually, you lack only the American Indian astrology. Is that so? Yes, this is because we have only 3 or 4 books about it and several very tiny elements. These are authentic, true books by them. Everything else was burnt by certain people, the conquistadors. So this is the reason why we don't have it as a resource. But the other viewpoints are here. And unfortunately, we also do not pay attention to Chinese astrology, which is very different and has a totally different interpretation because their culture is very, very far from the classic astrology. So that was a horoscope that we saw in 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional form. And when you click on the tab entitled Prognosis, you can enter the graphics. So here is a graphics that is already built. And now I'm going to build one of those graphics, for example, that one, of the emotional processes. So for around 3 level and some more, you can build a graphics for 30 days. For example, the graphic of health. If you have to have your graphics of health analyzed or of your love life for a month ahead, the ordinary, as you call them, traders in the temple would take several hundred of levs for such an analysis. And here you pay only for the professional technical means used. Sorry for interrupting. I mean the tendency regarding spirituality in general, not only astrology, because there is a saying, we are walking through waters and we are still thirsty. This is what happens in Bulgaria. It is very interesting to me when, for example, terms like a 5th dimension are used, or the 27th dimension, the 35th dimension, and they explain how to enter the 5th dimension, but to such people and lecturers, because one has to study mathematics and physics and esoterics in order to understand what the 5th dimension is actually. I'm now giving a certain example for charlatanism here. Globally, all over the world, they explain about the 5th dimension, but still such people have neither studied any esoteric tradition about what the 5th dimension is actually, nor about the 4th dimension. Neither they know what it means in mathematics or physics. And whenever some lecturers come out and speak on those topics, this is simply ridiculous. And since terms are used that are not known to people in general, the mass of people are just enchanted listening to something interesting about the 4th and the 5th dimension, but actually complete nonsense is spoken there. And even when I ask such lecturers, what do you mean by the 5th dimension? The 5th dimension in physics or in geometry, or you mean the mental world? Such a person would be perplexed, confused, and would not be able to tell me what they are talking about. Because by fifth dimension, when the master taught in his school, he thought about the spheres in the mental world, and people know that. The disciples of the master know that, and they understand those processes. However, the Western people substitute the terms. I mean, the term mental world. They want to remove it so that no one thinks about the mental world at all, and to change this mental world with the term fifth dimension, and not to talk at all about the world of feelings or the so-called astral world, but to substitute this term with the term the fourth dimension. However, by fourth dimension in physics, we mean the space-time, and in esoterics, by the fourth dimension, we mean the extremely different geometry of the astral world and the entire astral world in general, which is the world of feelings, emotions, and desires, and in which the law of sympathy and antipathy rules. And those processes are known in esoterics and in physics, in mathematics. But for example, when you ask a person talking about the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, asking them which is the first figure of the fourth dimension and what is its projection into the third dimension, they will not be able to answer at all. But the esoteric person knows, in this case, that the first figure in the fourth dimension is called the pentatop, and this pentatop, when projected in two dimensions, accomplishes the sacred symbol given to us by the master for the way of the disciple and the aspiration towards the great divine principles of Christ. And this figure is the pentagram, which is actually a projection of a four-dimensional body. Why four-dimensional body? Because actually, when one enters consciously as a disciple, entering the astral world, this person acquires this four-dimensional quality in themselves. As for example, in the great movie Interstellar, this four-dimensional nature was shown by the figure of the tesseract, a term used by the master 100 years ago, and this four-dimensional cube called the tesseract was visualized in the culmination moment of the movie Interstellar. However, it was explained there that love is what moves even the fifth dimension, and it even showed to people the way towards the human soul. And in the mental world exactly, God's love and the aspiration of the human spirit towards love rules over all processes, and this great mighty force is beyond time and space, as it was also shown by the genius Christopher Nolan, who actually makes those movies as masterpieces of human art of a highest order, including divine principles. However, people without any esoteric preparation or physical or mathematical preparation cannot think on those topics at all, and they should better not deliver any lectures at all, because people who are seriously prepared immediately recognize fraud, deceit, and manipulation of the mass of people. This is what we are talking about, Eva, and I hope actually through your channel in YouTube that people will acquire a serious preparation in esotericism and thus overcome all those limitations. However, now very particularly graphic of partnership processes, and when you see here a strong minimum on the 28th of January, on the 5th of February, or let's say on the 12th of February, and then you also build the graphics of risk, and if on those dates that I mentioned there is a strong minimum also here, like at this point for example, then you will know that on those 3 dates you have to keep your family away from scandal or misunderstanding, mistakes and problems at the plane of family and kinship. You mean you have to be awake and careful, exactly, but only on one condition: when those minimums, the 3 minimums here, coincide with 3 strong minimums, just as here for example, in one and the same time. Only then you have to be careful and awake. In this case, here the strong minimum minimum towards the end of March should coincide with another minimum from another graphic, and only then you will have information warning us that in the end of March we may have a serious situation. But in this case, we don't see in any other graphics such a minimum, which means that this graphics of risk here shows a general risk that is enhanced on all the topics of the human life. So with this graphic analysis of the horoscope made on the basis of serious algorithms and mathematical analysis of the total personal horoscope, only then such serious and adequate prognosis can be made. And this information can be presented in a way that every person who has graduated from the 7th grade in school could understand what they are looking at, everyone understanding what a minimum and a maximum is and what a graphic is, can understand that the minimum is something negative, while the maximum is something positive. We have explained even in colors under the graphics each one of those colors, what they mean, and also what minimum and maximum means. So even for children in school, in the 6th, 7th, 8th or 9th grade, all of this is fully comprehensible. I have a question for you. It is different from what you could expect me to ask you, but it is directly related to your faith, because I think you know the answer, and I would like to drink water from the source of your answer. And the question is, do you believe that God is above the stars? And no matter what there is as a projection from the living sky influencing all of us on this planet and everywhere else, of course, where there is life, and there is life everywhere, no matter what people believe in, our divine nature, which is at the basis of our right for a choice, can change any graphics. Now here I would like to explain. Sorry for provoking you with that. No, you're not provoking me at all. We are teaching exactly this in our university, in the European Astrological University, and it is not only me who teaches that, but also all the colleagues teach that in a unique and specific way, just as it was kept in the Persian tradition, the Turkish, the Greek, Austrian, Bulgarian astrological tradition. Soon there will be 2 more traditions that will be included. So what I would like to share is on the basis of what Master Ben Sadono Peter Danuf has taught us. The Master is not a fanatic religious preacher. Such preachers can be seen in mass all over Bulgaria and all over the world. They gather several hundreds of people, explaining them in a fanatic, ecstatic state what is what and why and so on. But our Master is a spiritual master teacher, and the difference is gigantic. Our Master was sent in the name of the Testament of God. He was sent as a spirit of truth. He teaches us how to be disciples. What does the word disciple mean? A disciple is that type of a human, and still Aristotle talked about the 2 types or 3 types of souls: the sensitive soul, the rational soul, and the 3rd type of soul, as we call it nowadays, the conscious soul. Those people undergoing development not only at the sensitive level, but they have reached the rational level. They are already intellectuals, for example, or people of human rights, for example. But those people who have got over this and have entered the sphere of the conscious soul, such people see the human life as a great school. Such people exactly know a simple truth, that everything in life is a great school, and that the entire cosmos speaks and teaches us through everything in our life. Not only the planets and stars teach us, but also they influence all the beings of angelical order, all beings of human order, and also all nations. They also rule over the animals and plants and minerals, and for that reason all those resources used by God as a great divine alphabet, begins to be constructed in front of us and to teach us in every aspect, in the smallest details of everyday life, in each and every instant of our life. And when this divine word is unfolded into this great school of life, as it is written by the Master in the very symbol of human spirituality, the pentagram, this is the symbol of Christ, we see that the planets and stars talk and teach us. They do not give us some bad influences and just some negative influences and some graphics that we have to overcome. There are no such movies, Eva. All those negative trials happening to us are not negative at all. They are trials of a disciple. And since they are disciples' trials, we should not get over them, but we should cope with them in a manner of a disciple. And in order that we can cope with them in a way of a disciple, we have to be conscious. And in order for us to be conscious, we have to understand who created the cosmos, what is actually astrology, and why is it the main science of discipleship. Why? First of all, who created the cosmos? We are living within the great cosmic human, whose self, just as we have our selves, the same way the great cosmic human has a self, and this self is called Christ. The Master says about the Spirit of Christ that he has created the accord, the harmony between the small worlds and the great worlds. Here you have the definition of the entire science named astrology directly from the Master. So the Master says about Christ, Christ creates astrology, and for this reason he created the accord, the harmony between the planets and stars and the human souls. And because of this harmony, this accord, we have the chance in each and every moment to understand the Word of God, to understand how God teaches us in virtues and forces, capabilities, knowledge, inspiration, and development of the highest ideas that we have. And exactly, it happens by means of astrology. So whenever any trials are given in our horoscopes, by birth or in the prognostic aspects, then we have the task first to understand each negative aspect, how it is interpreted. As I said, on three levels: lower, normal, and higher, sublime level. And I'll give you an example. A pleasant, good aspect, Venus square Mars. Venus square Mars in the human sense at the lowest plane is interpreted as constant betrayal and infidelity and big problems in the relationship between men and women. However, in life, these are moments when the person, psychologically, at the normal level of interpretation, has to learn how, if he is a man, for example, how to treat women in a very mindful and noble way, despite all the suffering given to him by women, or the suffering he gives to women by him involuntarily. He has to transform this psychologically. Whereas on the higher level, from a spiritual point of view, when this negative aspect is interpreted, it means the following: that this person is actually sent into this incarnation to overcome the big contradiction and conflict and misunderstanding of human love. The Master has given entire lectures and cycles of lectures how actually a young person can overcome, or even an elderly person can overcome, the conflict and the great misunderstanding of what actually human love is. This infantilism, this childish behavior, that human love is just an attraction between the different genders and the bodies, is a big nonsense that is spread globally like some insanity, and for this reason people enter huge sufferings. And when people understand that truth, and when they outgrow and get over this nonsense through spiritual thinking and development, they find a new path, a new dimension, because a Mars square Venus means a new dimension of the relationship between the man and the woman, or let's say between the mind and the heart, or between the will and the heart. And in this sense, I give you an example how one negative aspect in the birth chart of the person is overcome through the expanding of the consciousness. If an ordinary person, or a person who has just become a believer in God, this is the person of the New Testament, or righteous person struggling for human rights has such an aspect in their lives, this person will very difficultly cope with this aspect. This person will undergo gigantic ups and downs. However, a person with a way of thinking of a disciple and such a consciousness has the chance of attaining the high dimension of this aspect and thus accomplish the sublime idea given to this person by God as a task. In a certain sense, a human is a tiny body cell transforming this negative of the cosmos, showing its divine inner meaning, utilizing this negative for something good. And in this sense, we accomplish our divine task. But all of this may be in another topic, in another conversation. I will explain how actually, especially for astrology and exactly in Bulgaria, Christianity and the clergy in the church have imposed a fraud and a lie, even in the Bible, both in the Old and in the New Testament. And they have acted in such a way that one of the greatest nations who practiced astrology for thousands of years are not able to do this. So the people practicing astrology were accused of being some traitors of the teaching of the right faith. However, all of that is based on a lie that I'm going in another episode to demonstrate to you and prove to you that it is a lie written in the Bible, a lie, and it is in the Bulgarian translations of the Bible. Make your own conclusions. The truth already is being revealed, and after it is revealed already, nothing could be hidden. Nothing could be hidden. All of that, even the lies of the clergy regarding astrology, are already falling to pieces and dust. But we are going to talk about this another time. I thank you so much for opening the gates in this way about this magical month of March, in which there is such a great and good omen with Venus. Venus still is the planet of astrology since most ancient times. And when Venus shows its divine phases, then the divine energies of astrology come. While you were talking, I remembered about a true story that I'm going to share now. And by this, I am going to provoke our audience of the podcast, As is Brach, I have chosen, to think. Many years ago, I think it was around 1990, I had the chance of going to meet a great disciple, woman whose name is Vesela Nestorova. For example, you can check on the internet by writing the song The Last Supper or The Sun's Rays. That song, which is a part of the panorhythmy and is something very, very special. Panorhythmy means supreme cosmic rhythm, and it is connected with stars. But this is another topic for another conversation, and we're going to discuss this for sure. And this lady was at a very majestic age, towards 9 years of age. She was one of the close disciples of Master Peter Dunov. She told me something like, a time will come when I will have to share something with people. I was then at the age of 20 years and I didn't understand anything of what she told me. It was like the advanced flying level of spirituality. So I'm going to paraphrase this. She said something like, she asked me what I knew about 2012, about that year, and I answered that I know that this is the end of the Mayan calendar, which means that probably the world will end. She smiled because that was very childish from me. She said, look, the world will not end in 2012. On the contrary, but simply in 2012, a great miracle will happen regarding our Mother Earth. And this miracle will be that from the entire universe, from all the suns and planets, the divine gifts will be sent for our planet, which thousands and thousands and thousands of years has performed the mission of being like a school how were those schools called for children during communism, a boarding school, that our planet has been a boarding school for fallen angels, for highest beings who had to pass through this planet. And actually, she said that when 2012 comes, from this year, the planet Earth will stop performing this hard mission and very cruel role of being the garbage bin for the universe regarding the souls. And then those gifts that this planet will receive from all those 144,000 souls, of which she asked me what I know about them, about those 144,000 souls that are mentioned in the Gospel of John. And I said maybe only they will survive on the earth. But do you understand? I was only 20 or so years. I had read the Bible, I had read Don Juan, and all those kinds of literature that we had access to after the beginning of the 19th, when the socialism was gone. And she said, no, all those 144,000 souls will have the chance of receiving the heavenly gift of the universe and will be living gods. On earth, the world will not end. On the contrary, the earth will raise its vibrations and its frequency so high that only those who are worthy will be able to receive the heavenly gifts. And then I was so naive to ask her, will I receive them? And she smiled and told me, do you know, the struggle of the dark ones and of evil will be so strong that, and I am putting now a great emphasis on this, they will be so strong that they will struggle collectively for each soul that shines collectively. Many people which are luminous, bright people whom you know, will switch to the side of darkness because they will not endure. And there will be such strong fire in the hearts and in the thoughts of people that only 144,000 souls will have the chance to receive the heavenly gifts of the universe. Why am I sharing this? I have never wanted to share this in public because now we are talking about the heavenly omens. Because I think that after 2012 we have had so many proofs of science that things on earth are changing, including the resonance and the fact that time is running a little bit faster. If you would like, I can explain what these 144,000 are. And actually, there came the moment when it has to be said, and that is why, dear people, which have remained until the end of our conversation, please be awake and vigilant. Think, everything is inside you. And I am going to only add for the final of our conversation that in the European Astrological University, we are currently studying the so-called special subdivisions of the zodiacal signs of the zodiac, and I am going to gradually tell our students how certain subdivisions of the zodiac are related to certain angelic hierarchies. There is a special subdivision called dodecatemoria that are 144 in total in the entire zodiac, and they are related to pay attention to the guardian angels of humankind. The angelic hierarchy has the divine function of creating the plant kingdom, including all fruit trees, flowers, and herbs. And therefore, it is said that flowers are the children of angels. Is that so? Yes, exactly. So flowers should not be plucked and picked, but they should be given as a gift alive by all women and men. This is a very important truth on this topic. So in this case, angels are responsible for the animal kingdom, for all fruits and flowers, but together with that, they perform the function of being guardian angels of humans, and pay attention that they are that sublime nature of the soul, this conscious and sublime voice sounding inside our consciousness, instructing and training us in everyday life so that we can follow our path towards God. And actually all those 144 tiny particles, each at the size of 2.5 degrees of each zodiac, are literally related to our angels. And when these angels bless humans, and give their gifts to humankind, all those people who are conscious souls and disciples will receive those gifts in the most sublime and unique way. And actually, here's a secret hidden, that those 144,000 of whom Sister Vesela Nesterova has spoken are, so to say, the leaders of humankind. These are the spiritual leaders, the true disciples, and the souls that are spiritually summoned and called upon towards God, who have found their own guardian angel and communicate with this angel consciously and directly, learning from that angel. And exactly those 144,000, by receiving those gifts from the angelic hierarchy, will lead the humankind out of this dark and unfavorable layer that we have to finally and forever overcome and get over it in the cosmos, and about which the Master has predicted 100 years ago that the entire solar system will finally get over this negative zone of the cosmos and will enter a virgin, a sublime sphere of the cosmos, where the divine fire is burning in flames, and it will not be burning just as some cataclysmic events outside us somewhere in the cosmos, but it will be burning inside the human souls. And those human souls who will feel this and will make from their hearts a temple in which the divine fire will be burning are exactly those 144,000 people who will lead all the others. So we are studying those things, and someday, Eva, I can show you your birth and the exact particle of those 144 subdivisions that is activated by your birth and what it means in a comprehensible and specific language. Unbelievable. So let's say to our audience that what I just did, I didn't plan to do at all. And the fact that you know that was totally unknown to me. Really wondrous and lovely things happen. And I think that through the channel I have chosen, as is Brach, really certain ideas descend that are unbelievable. This is called synchronicity. This is a term introduced by Jung, who is actually a great astrologer and who says that whenever the entire cosmos is synchronized and its events are synchronized with the personal life of a human, this human experiences this synchronicity, and after this experience, this is the direct intervention of God. That is the direct presence of God, which actually shows the true direction of the human soul. I think that we are obliged, regarding the people in Bulgaria, and not only those who are watching us here, but also abroad, because our episodes will be interpreted into English and French. We are responsible and obliged to tell them all those things, not because we are so important, but because we are responsible. And now I remember that when Christ became angry, it was only once, it was in the temple, when he expelled the merchants, the traders. But those were not just the traders of pigeons. This is all symbols in the Bible. These were the traders of the spiritual. And since we live in the time when truly the heavenly gifts come, so we are only days before this great omen, when Venus will rise and will be above the sun. And you explained all of this so well. And I thank you. On the first day of spring. Yes, on the first day of spring. And it is really important that we say that it is time to take the steering wheel of our choice or of life that can be bright and good, to take the steering wheel in our hands. The path towards God is the path of the soul, and the soul knows. And I am glad that there are people like you. There are a lot of them working in the name of the entire totality, and we'll meet each other in the online space to talk on topics which will surely not be so much watched by people, but however, this is for those for whom it is predestined. So let us wish to ourselves that the energies of the spring equinox, of the divine Venus, do so that thousands and millions of people reach this information, acquire this divine energy, and apply it in their lives in the most beautiful way. I believe that everything is just the way it should be because we are creators of our life. Philip, thank you. So until next month, when you are going to tell us about that European Astrology University, because there are many wonders in there, and I, as many people that you know, I believe in wonders and I seek them. And whenever I have found a wonder, I think I have to share it with the audience. So be healthy and God be with you, dear people, all of you. May you too be very healthy and think and choose what is luminous and bright. And I am going to wish to all the audience that we have the blessing of God's love coming from the entire cosmos. Let it be focused into your souls so that there can the fire be kindled, the fire of God's light. Thank you. Be healthy. See you soon. See you soon. As is Brach, I have chosen the podcast for the choice of those people who truly have something to share, who truly do something more than others because they think not only about themselves but also about the world, about the city, about life, about the meaning and purpose and the good that lives inside everyone. Each one of us have their own shadow, but still we keep on seeking the light, and the light can be found through sharing. Therefore, we thank you for sharing our videos. If you like them, if you watch them, if you comment them. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe for the channel I have chosen, Asis Brach. If you wish to write to us, please write to the email that will be given in this video. If you wish to call us, you can do that by dialing this number that we are showing in this moment. And last but not least, in order for this podcast to be existing, we need your support. So if you like us, you can donate by PayPal or Revolut. Thank you for being together. Thank you for believing in us and trusting us. Thank you for being with us. As is Brach, I have chosen the choice of good.